Hi, I'm Kim Lovely. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm coming to you from Bedford, New Hampshire. I like to consider myself the dietitian that practices outside the box, so I don't practice as you would think a typical dietitian does. I also have a tagline, which I think is so cool for most people to know, is that I never, ever get tired of talking about nutrition. I love it. I'm passionate about it. I've been practicing for way more than a few decades, and I never get tired of talking about it. I learn constantly. I change the way I do things based on the latest research. And today I'm coming to you for a conversation about sugar and why it's important to break up with sugar. So over the holidays, in our culture, we are exposed to sugar all over the place. And for some reason, we've decided that it is perfectly normal to eat as much sugar as we want to. So most of us indulge in sugar and find ourselves craving it constantly, and more importantly, feeling terrible moving through mud. So it's really important to actually break up with sugar, not just because it's better for your health, but because it's better for your brain. Your brain is being lit up by sugar. Sugar is like any addictive substance. It acts on an area called the nucleus accumbens, which is the area of the brain that when we go and look on MRI after a person's been exposed to something addictive like a cigarette or sugar or alcohol, the nucleus accumbens lights up. It gets a charge from those substances. That is what's happening with sugar. So not only are you craving it because you think it tastes good, but you're craving it because your brain has gone into this sort of vortex of sugar-seeking monster. All right, so that's the first thing. By breaking up with it, you're not exposing your brain to constantly being, inundated by the sugar. And we also are going to we're going to change how our body manages the metabolism. So sugar encourages the body to kick out insulin. Insulin is an anabolic hormone. It's made and secreted by the pancreas in response to the digestion of carbohydrates, which ultimately become sugar. So sugar's in the bloodstream, the pancreas secretes insulin. Insulin comes along and acts like an Uber and brings that sugar from the bloodstream into the cells. If we have more energy, more sugar than we need going into the cells just store that energy for later. Insulin is the ultimate fat cell fertilizer. The more sugar you eat, the more insulin you produce, the more cells get fatter, the more energy they hoard. The body thinks it's hungry because insulin not only is a fat cell fertilizer, it makes you hungry. So it's this vicious cycle of the fat cells storing energy, taking it out of the bloodstream, the body thinking that it's hungry, and wanting to eat more, generally, of carbohydrates. The other thing that makes this like a double whammy is there's a hormone called glucagon. And glucagon is responsible for allowing the body and encouraging the body to take sugar out of the cells, energy out of the cells, which is actually stored as fat, and converting it to usable energy for the body. That's glucagon's job. When insulin levels are high, glucagon levels are low. So not only are you hungry, getting fatter, you also have less ability to break down that energy which you have already stored. So let's say, for example, you put on 2 pounds over the holidays. Well, that's roughly 7,000 calories that are sitting in your fat cells waiting for you to use them. Until you actually stop consuming sugar, stop overeating, those fat cells won't release that energy to be used by the body. Okay, so what's the first step? How do we break up with sugar? The first thing is awareness. Where is it in your diet? From the first moment you step your foot on the floor in the morning, where is the places that you're getting sugar? Are you someone that puts sugar in your coffee? Are you someone that has a donut for breakfast? Do you have a piece of toast with peanut butter? Does your peanut butter have added sugar or not? As you can see in this label, in the ingredient list is sugar. So this particular peanut butter, which is just sort of a general grocery store peanut butter, has 3 grams of sugar per serving. If you have peanut butter on your toast in the morning and it has added sugar, you're starting your day with added sugar.
Alternatively, if you read labels carefully, you will find that there are plenty of nut butters out there that don't have sugar added. So you'll see in this label, no sugar is in the ingredient list, and in the added section, it's got 0% added sugar. So first place is being aware of where sugar is in your diet, starting at the beginning of the day and all the way through to the end of the day. Step 2, managing your emotions around eating sugar. So let's say we have a craving for a cookie. There's a couple more Christmas cookies left in your freezer, and you have an urge to eat one of those cookies, all right? It's not hard to not go get the cookie, right? You just don't go to your fridge. You just stay in your room or wherever you are. That's not hard. What is hard is saying no to yourself and dealing with the urge. So some people think that not eating junk food, not eating sweets, eating a healthier diet is all about willpower. My friends, I'm here to tell you that it has nothing to do with willpower. Willpower should never be blamed or used for food choices. Food choices should be with the front part of your brain, which is the smart part of your brain where decisions come from. So I have a great example for you. Imagine that you're in the grocery store and there's a mom pushing a 3-year-old in a grocery cart through the store, and the little 3-year-old seeing food everywhere. It's really stressful. Mom gets up to the checkout counter. Small child reaches out to a candy, which we know is child height, drives me absolutely foolish, holds the candy up to the mom and says, "I want the candy." The mom says, "Nope, we're not having the candy." 3-year-old throws a snot bubble, screaming, yelling tantrum of epic proportion, right? That is like an urge. That temper tantrum is like a sugar urge. Mom has 3 choices. She can give the child the candy. She can have a back and forth argument with the child about, hey, why we're not having candy today. We all know how well that's not going to go. Or she can recognize that this is a brutal situation. She has dragged her child through the grocery store for the past 45 minutes where there is food everywhere. Colorful packages, smells, all kinds of stuff. And then the poor little child reaches out to something that is her height and wants it, and mom is saying, no, this is torture. So the best response is the mom recognizing that this is really hard and getting the heck out of the grocery store as fast as she can. What the child learns, which is the same as an urge, if I throw a fit, I don't get the candy. And what that does is it extinguishes the urge, right? Every time we don't give in to an urge, we extinguish its power. On the other hand, if the mom decides I can't deal with, with the embarrassment and my child's got snot bubbles coming out of her nose and it's just horrible, and decides I'm going to give the child the candy, what the child learns is I throw an epic temper tantrum and I get candy. So that's what an urge is like to your brain. So let's imagine, for me, I've been broken up with sugar for about 3.5 weeks because I got into some over Christmas holidays too. So I'll still have an urge every once in a while because I know that there's these really good biscotti that are still in the freezer that my daughter made for me that are fabulous, right? So every once in a while I think, wouldn't it be nice to have biscotti with my coffee? Instead of beating myself up and saying, hey, get some willpower, Kim, smarten up, I tell myself, you know what? You've had lots of them. You're not deprived. You've had an abundance of sweets over the holiday. You are fine. It's just your brain thinking that this would be a good idea, and of course it would taste good, but we're not doing this right now, because if we do, we're going backwards. So I just work my way through. I don't try to muscle myself. I don't try to beat myself up. I simply sit with the discomfort of the urge. And I have something called an urge jar, and sometimes if I have a challenge with an urge, I give myself a little reward in the urge jar, which is like a colorful bead. And that feeds my primal brain, which is the part of your brain that wants instant gratification, that wants to feel good right now. I'm feeding that part of my brain by saying, you know what? I recognize that you need something and give you a little
treat, and that is a glass bead in my jar. And over time, those beads are going to collect, and it's a reminder to me that urges are real, but that managing them is the best thing that you can do. Okay, so step one, being aware of where sugar is in your diet. Maybe you want to write it down. Maybe you want to just look at all the areas that you're going to have to make changes in if you want to kick sugar out. Second thing is learning to deal with emotions and urges around sweet foods. It's okay to feel a negative emotion. We're 50% good emotions and 50% bad emotions. It's perfectly fine to feel bad. It's okay that you are like, I really want this sugar and this kind of sucks. It's fine. You don't have to pretend that it's not fine. It is fine. Step three is planning. So planning the day before what you are going to eat and honoring your commitment to yourself. So say you decide, you know what, I'm really going to do this. I'm going to get my brain off sugar. I'm going to feel better, and I'm doing this for me as a gift. The best thing I can do is use the front part of my brain to make food decisions, which means I'm going to plan the day before. All right, so we plan our breakfast. Maybe we're going to have 2 eggs, a piece of Ezekiel toast, and some peanut butter that doesn't have sugar added to it. And then for lunch, we're gonna have some leftovers from the night before because we made chicken and some salad. So we're gonna have that for lunch. And then at the end of the day, you know, your day is really, really long and you don't think you're gonna make it to dinner, so you're gonna plan on having an apple and an ounce of cheese. And then dinner time, you already know that on your menu is baked fish and rice and a variety of vegetables. So that's what dinner is. You write it down. For me, I put it in my phone on my calendar so that it's always there, but wherever you do, and you honor the commitment to yourself to do what you said you were going to do, okay? When it comes to things like treats, it doesn't mean you can't ever have them, you just need to have them planned. If it's a planned treat, it means you're using the front part of your brain and not that stupid loud part. So let's say you have a plan to go out for Aunt Mary's birthday party on this coming Sunday, and you know that cousin Bertha is going to be making fabulous cupcakes, all right? And you would like to have one of those cupcakes. So when you plan your food for Sunday, you're going to put on there Aunt Bertha's cupcakes, or cousin Bertha's cupcakes, okay? That is on your schedule. You have planned it. You can look forward to it. During the week, Wednesday rolls around and you're like, kind of been a gross day and I could sure use a little bit of sweet, and I know that Hubs has something yummy in the pantry that, you know, is there that maybe I could have too. Remind yourself, I've planned a treat on Sunday. All I need to do is wait until then. I'm not responding to the primal part of my brain. I'm going to stick with what I wrote down. This is what I'm doing. I know that it's hard. Any urge, you know, the word urge comes from the word urgent. It isn't from laid back. It comes from the word urgent. Recognizing that it's hard, but honor the commitment to yourself and look forward to the cupcake on Sunday. Caveat. For me, and maybe for others, if I have something sweet, it definitely lights up that area of my brain, the nucleus accumbens, and I know that for a few days after that treat, I will have sugar cravings. So I have to decide whether it's worth it or not to have that treat. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't, and sometimes for me, just being aware that it's gonna happen is really helpful. So let's say I do have something yummy on a Sunday night, and then Monday rolls around and I've got that sugar craving, you know, whatever desire for sweet. I'm able to say, you know what, remember Kim, this was gonna happen. This is your brain acting exactly the way it should act, completely normal functioning brain, yaha, good for it, but we're not giving into this. We're going to go back to not having sugar so that we don't, continue to perpetuate that primal urge for sugar. We're back to the plan. So my friends, wrapping it up, step 1, understand it's really important to break up with sugar. Step 2, where is it in your diet? Look at the labels. What are you eating? Get aware. How much is in your mouth? Can you give it up entirely? What's the task ahead of you? And number 3 is managing urges. Remember that an urge is like a 3-year-old having a temper tantrum. If you don't give into it by eating, it will quell the urge, take the fire out of the urge, and make it easier every time. Every time you don't give in to the urge by eating, it gets easier and easier. Reward yourself with a glass bead, reward yourself with $1, whatever. Reward that primal part of your brain so that it gets recognized that this is really hard. Final step is planning. Plan what you're going to eat the next day. Honor the commitment to yourself. If you need to have treats in your diet, plan them, and then don't have them unless they're not planned. All right, there's the end of episode 1. We'll see you guys again soon when we're going to talk about intermittent fasting.